I found a second phone, hidden in my wife's gym bag. It was a burner phone, prepaid, no passcode. So I opened the contacts. There was only one number, saved as Hubby number 2, with a red heart. I tapped call. 1 ring, 2 rings. Then someone picked up, and the voice on the other end was my brother, my own flesh and blood. And he said, "Hey, baby, is he asleep yet?" Yeah, that's how crazy this whole thing got, man. And before I keep going with this story, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for me. Cool? All right, let's get back into it. I was standing at the Thanksgiving table with my phone in my hand, thinking the turkey had actually come out pretty good. Not my whole life is about to change good. Not justice is about to be served good. Just turkey. My mom hadn't dried it out this year. The skin was all shiny. The cranberry sauce was sitting in my grandma's chipped bowl, and everything looked exactly the way a holiday table is supposed to look in a family where people are trying. At the table were my mom, my dad, my brother Nate and his wife Holly, my wife Megan, and our kids, Olivia, 7, and Ethan, 5. Ethan was sitting on a cushion because the chair was too high for him, poking his mashed potatoes with a fork and building some kind of mashed potato fortress. I said, "Mom, can I play something through your speaker?" Mom smiled. She'd bought that speaker on Black Friday a year earlier, and ever since then she used it for Christmas playlists and gardening podcasts. The password was "OOOO" because my mom believed passwords were only for people with something to hide. I connected, hit play, 2 seconds of static. Then Megan's voice, the same voice that asked me every morning if I bought milk, said, "Hey, it's me. He's leaving for Cleveland on Tuesday. Back Thursday. You can come over after 9. The kids will be asleep." My mom's smile didn't disappear right away. It hung there for a couple seconds, even though her eyes had already stopped smiling. My dad stopped chewing. Holly looked at Nate. Nate looked at me. Megan stared down at her napkin, right where it was folded into a triangle. I played the second message. That one was Nate's voice. But before that, I need to tell you how I even got there. In early October, the dryer broke. Well, not fully broke. It still ran, but it made this awful grinding noise like it needed an exorcist. Megan said, "Call a repair guy." I said, "I'll handle it. I'm a logistics manager for a company that ships farm equipment parts all over the Midwest. If I can get a crankshaft delivered to Iowa by Wednesday, I can fix a damn dryer." I pulled it away from the wall. Between the body of the dryer and the vent pipe, there was maybe a 6-inch gap, and a phone fell out. A flip phone. Cheap. The kind you buy at a gas station for $20. Not Megan's. She had an iPhone. I would have known. Somebody else had left it in our house. The phone was dead. I dug around in my toolbox and found an old micro USB cable. It fit. The screen lit up. 3 missed calls from 1 number, 1 voicemail. Megan's voice. My wife, who at that exact moment was upstairs making pasta and humming along to some song on the radio. Her voice was coming out of this cheap little stranger's phone, talking about schedules. When I'd be at work, when the kids would be at my mom's, when there was a window. It was an incoming voicemail, which meant Megan had sent it to whoever owned that phone. I checked the number behind the 3 missed calls. Different number. Not Megan. Then I opened the outgoing calls. Last dialed number. Our house phone. The number only family really used. I searched the number. No matches. So I called it from my iPhone. 3 rings. Voicemail. Nate's voice. "Hey, this is Nate. Leave a message." My little brother. The guy I'd loaned $8,000 to 2 years earlier for a down payment on his house and told, "Don't worry about paying me back. We're family." His phone, a burner, left in my house. Maybe he dropped it when he came over. Maybe Megan hid it and forgot where. I put the phone on a shelf in the basement behind some paint cans. Then I went upstairs. Megan asked if I fixed the dryer. I said, "No, needs a part, I'll order it." The pasta was actually pretty good, by the way. For the next 3 days, I lived like everything was normal. Went to work, picked up the kids, cooked dinner when it was my turn, Watched half an episode of some cop show with Megan, one of those shows where everybody lies to everybody and only the audience knows who the real dirtbag is. My body figured it out before my brain did. I couldn't eat grilled meat anymore. Used to love it. Now the smell made me sick. There was a bottle of cologne in the bathroom that Nate had given me for Christmas. The same kind he wore. Megan had said back then, "Oh, I like that smell." Now I knew why. I started waking up around 4 in the morning, going downstairs to the kitchen and just standing there in the dark without turning on the light. I wasn't even thinking about anything specific. I was just standing. On the third day, I started noticing things I hadn't noticed before. Megan had been going to yoga on Thursdays since March. Nate had been staying late at his car wash on Thursdays since March. The car wash closed at 6. I called there at 7 on a Thursday night. Tyler answered, one of Nate's employees, some 20-year-old kid with a ponytail. I asked if Nate was still there. Tyler said, "Nah, he left like 2 hours ago." I hung up. I decided I wasn't going to blow up. Not yet. I was going to collect everything I could. I'd spent 10 years making reports on routes and deadlines. I needed dates, amounts, and proof. Almost 2 months. From early October until Thanksgiving Eve. First thing, bank statements. Megan and I had a joint account for household stuff. Groceries, gas, things for the kids. Every Thursday since March, there was a cash withdrawal. $60, sometimes 70, once 80. Megan said it was her yoga membership. A small studio in the next town. Cash only. I called the studio and said I was her husband trying to renew her membership. The girl at the front desk checked and said Megan Wheeler hadn't been registered there since March. I took Nate's burner phone out of the basement. By then, they had both switched to disappearing message apps. They didn't need the burner anymore, and Nate apparently hadn't even noticed it was gone. But the voicemails were still there going back to March. Incoming messages from Megan, her voice, her schedule, and recordings from Nate himself. He used the voice recorder, apparently, talking through what he was going to say before calling her back. I listened to 3 of them. In one, Nate, with that annoying habit of saying like every 2 seconds, said Holly didn't suspect a thing. Then he laughed. Not some evil laugh, just a normal laugh. Like somebody told a joke at a party and everybody was already a few drinks in. I copied the recordings to my phone. Started an Excel spreadsheet. Date, cash amount, day of the week, overlap with Megan being gone. Saved it to a flash drive I kept in the glove compartment of my car. By week 5, I went to a lawyer. Patricia was recommended by Dave from purchasing after I asked if he knew anybody who handled family law. Dave didn't pry. Solid guy. Patricia's office was in a strip mall between a dry cleaner and a dentist. Her last name and office hours were printed on the door. She explained that Ohio is a no-fault state. You can get divorced without proving cheating, but if adultery is proven, the court can take it into account when dividing property. The voicemails from a random phone? Gray area. The court might not accept them, but bank statements, the yoga studio call, matching schedules, that was enough. I asked, what if the other guy is my own brother? Patricia took off her glasses, set them on the desk, and said, that doesn't change the law. A week before Thanksgiving, I picked 2 voicemails. No explicit details, just names and specifics. That Sunday, I stopped by my parents' house to bring my mom her blood pressure medication. While she was busy in the kitchen, I connected my phone to her speaker. Bluetooth grabbed it immediately. She hadn't changed the password. All that time, I slept next to Megan. She always fell asleep first. I'd lie there staring at the crack in the ceiling I'd been meaning to patch for 3 years. Thanksgiving. 4th Thursday in November. We drove to my parents' house. Olivia and Ethan fought over the tablet in the back seat. Megan sat beside me, checking her iPhone. She typed something, looked at the screen, then deleted it. I didn't say a word. At my parents' place, everything was like always. Mom in the kitchen, apron on, smell of sage everywhere. Dad on the couch, football, bad knee, complaining about the ref. Nate and Holly showed up a little later. Holly brought pumpkin pie she'd baked that morning. She worked at a library, and there was something quiet and library-ish about her. She apologized when walking past a chair, like the chair might get offended. Nate came in windburned, half a day outside at the car wash, even in November, and slapped me on the shoulder. Bro, you lose weight? You look like you went through a detox. I hadn't lost weight. I'd just stopped eating right. Mom made a toast. Standard stuff. Family. Gratitude. How nice it was that we were all there. I stood up, raised my glass. Everybody thought I was about to make a toast. I took out my phone. Mom nodded toward the speaker, like, go ahead. Dad set down his knife. Olivia stopped swinging her legs. That kind of silence where everybody is waiting for something nice, maybe music, maybe a cute video of the kids. I hit play, static, the same static I'd heard dozens of times over the past weeks while choosing the clips, while rehearsing the order in my car in the parking lot at work. Then, Megan's voice filled the room. Cleveland, Tuesday, after 9. Kids asleep. The exact same words I told you earlier. For the first second and a half, nobody understood. Mom looked at the speaker like someone had played the wrong song. Dad set his fork down slowly, parallel to the knife, like that was the most important thing in the world right then. Holly turned toward Nate. Nate didn't move. I played the second one. Nate's voice, that nasal tenor my mom had always thought was so cute. Holly's going to her sister's in Dayton tomorrow. Come over at 7. I'll close the car wash early. Mom slowly put her glass down. She said, Gregory, and you couldn't tell whether she was talking to me, to Nate, or to the whole damn situation. It was the same voice she used when I was 10 and broke the neighbor's window. Except back then, you could pay for the window. Nate jumped up and knocked over his chair. He said something. I don't remember what. Just words. Words that changed nothing and explained nothing. Megan started crying. Quietly, no screaming. Tears just dropped into her plate, and the turkey got wet, and for some reason, the whole thing feel even nastier. Holly didn't cry. She sat there, staring at her hands. Then she stood up, took her coat off the hook by the back door, and walked out. The lock clicked behind her, softly, normally, like she'd just gone to take out the trash. Olivia looked at me. Dad, why did Aunt Holly leave? I sat back down, picked up my fork, said, Can somebody pass the gravy? Nobody passed it. Holly drove to her sister's in Dayton that same night. She didn't answer Nate's calls. She texted me once. Thank you for telling me. I need time. I didn't reply. I had no idea what you're supposed to say to that. Nate called me 4 times over the next 2 days. I didn't pick up. On the 4th call, he left a voicemail. Bro, I know what you're thinking right now, but listen. I listened up to that point and deleted it. Mom called 2 days later. Her voice was flat and dry, the voice she used with insurance agents. You could have talked to him one-on-one. Why in front of everyone? Why in front of the kids? Why in front of Holly? She didn't do anything. I said, he could have not slept with my wife. Mom went quiet. Then she said, he's my son too, Greg. I said, so am I. She hung up. Megan packed her things on Sunday. No big talk, no explanation. 2 suitcases and a bag of the kids' clothes. She went to her friend Christine's place. She took the kids with her. I didn't stop her. Patricia had explained that a voluntary departure gets documented, and it doesn't mean I lose custody rights. I wrote down the date and time in my phone notes. Sunday, 2:20 p.m. The house went empty the second they left. On the kitchen table were 2 of Ethan's cups with dinosaurs on them. I washed them, dried them, and put them in the top cabinet. 2 divorces ran side by side. Megan filed in early December. Her lawyer tried to paint the public playing of the recordings as emotional cruelty on my part. Patricia didn't argue the wording. She laid out the bank statements, the confirmation from the yoga studio, and the spreadsheet of matching schedules I'd kept for almost 2 months. The court didn't accept the voicemails. Gray area, just like Patricia warned. But the rest was enough. Custody. Shared. Week by week. House. Mine. Mortgage was in my name. Down payment came from my savings. Holly filed in Dayton through a local attorney. Nate called, drove to her sister's place. Holly only communicated through her lawyer. They didn't have kids, so the divorce went faster. They sold the house. After paying off the remaining mortgage, there was basically nothing left to split. Nate sold the car wash too, one of those chain companies that installs machines instead of hiring people, bought it for under market value. He moved back in with my parents into his old room, where a poster from some high school band was still hanging on the wall. In March, Dad was taken away in an ambulance. Heart attack, stent, no more stakes. I came in the morning. Nate came in the afternoon. First time since November we'd been in the same room. Dad was lying there with an IV, oxygen monitor clipped to his finger. He said slowly, with pauses, "Boys, figure out the house, while I'm still here and can keep an eye on it." My parents' house was their only real asset, unless you counted the car and a retirement account that had just enough in it to cover medication and cable. Mom wanted it split evenly. I said they could divide it however they wanted. Nate said nothing. In the hospital parking lot afterward, wet pavement, March in Ohio, Nate stopped by his car and said without turning around, "You destroyed this family, Greg." I looked at him. I turned on a speaker. The rest was you. He got in his car and drove off. I stood there for another minute, then left too. Mom started calling every 2 weeks. Short calls. How are the kids? How's work? She never forgave the way I did it. Nate lived in their guest room, fixed the porch, helped with groceries. The younger son, he had it harder. I was the older one. I should have handled it differently. Maybe she was right. I don't know. The inheritance papers sat with the lawyers. Nobody signed. In June, I moved to Cincinnati, asked for a transfer, same logistics, different routes, and none of my co-workers knew why I was there. Apartment, 2 bedrooms. The second one for the kids on weekends. Olivia settled in, stuck unicorn decals on the wall. Ethan still asked at bedtime when we were going home. I was unpacking the last box from the basement. At the bottom was the micro USB cable, the same one I'd used to charge the burner phone back in October. I held it in my hand. Just a regular cable. Black. Worn out connector. I dropped it in the trash. Saturday. Park by the river. Ethan ran toward the swings. Olivia walked beside me, holding my hand. She'd gotten quieter over those 6 months. She hadn't aged 1 year. She'd aged about 5. She asked, "Dad, are we going to Grandma Donna's for Thanksgiving?" I said, "I don't know yet." My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Holly. She was calling to ask if she could send Ethan a birthday gift. She'd found a Lego set he'd probably love, but she didn't know my new address. I gave it to her. Silence on the line. On her end, I could hear a fan or maybe an air conditioner humming. "I got a job," Holly said. "In Cincinnati. At the county court archives." "Oh," I said. "That's good. All right. Bye." She hung up. Ethan shouted from the swings, "Dad, push me." I put the phone in my pocket and walked across the grass.